Hello, my name is Sandra. I have tried to talk to people over the week about the understanding and the perception of savings, but very many of my colleagues and friends, they had a very different understanding of savings. There's a way how everybody perceived savings and what they call savings. Ordinarily, there's a way we understand saving. We usually say if you get the portion of your income and put it aside, and of course that is the true, like the normal and the basic understanding and the definition of savings. But I also, as I've attended finance during my course, I attended finance classes. I have attended finance seminars, teachings. I've read through the internet and so many things. You know, knowledge is power, and not everybody who gives you knowledge is better than you. So you can't see me here speaking to you about savings, and you maybe think that I have saved a lot. No, knowledge is a power, and it's an instrument of power. So you can use knowledge to reach to people and also to reach your goals. From sharing my own basic of understanding, I am going to share about how I understand savings, basing on the research, studies, and experience that I have. I'm not too old to have too big experience, of course, but there's this little experience that I have about savings. So, ordinarily and basically, we define savings as the part of income that is put aside, not for spending. But ask yourself, every time you paid salary, let's say if you're a salary earner, if you get your income, when you paid salary, you put that money aside. Usually you say you have saved. But at the end of the year, you're the same person who says you don't have money, but you've been working the whole year and you've been saving. So where does the money go? So that's from this basis, that's why I said maybe somehow we can all help each other and learn about saving. Maybe it will help us even with our little finances. So even saving is a sacrifice for the future. You should bear that in mind, that even though it is money you've put aside, savings has an element. It is futuristic. You're not saving for practically today or tomorrow or the next day or the next week. It has to be having an element of saving for the future. To achieve savings, of course, you have to start by minimizing your expenses. Majorly, you have to minimize your expenses on utilities, expenses on airtime, expenses on food. Like for example, if you're working, if you can pack your lunch, if you can, yes, you can. It is better because I pack my lunch while I'm working, and when I'm looking for a job, usually I make sure that I move. Even when the offices shift, I make sure I move to nearby the offices so that I can be able to fetch my lunch from home, my water and my juice, everything. I have different containers, but I make it a point not to buy food when I'm at work. So most people spend a lot of money at lunch when they're at work. You have to lower utility expenses like power and water at home. You have to find mechanism of minimizing all that. Switch off unnecessary bulbs when you're in the house. If you're in the sitting room, make sure the bedroom lights are off. If you're in the bedroom, the sitting room lights are off. And sometimes don't switch on security lights when it's too early. That's one way. And water, you can use water. You can minimize on water by you know how to handle it very well. Don't just go to the bathroom and spend an hour. You can bathe, because you actually, by the time you get out, maybe you'd have used like 3 jerry cans. And if you can bathe 3 times or 2 times a day, those are 6 jerry cans or 5 jerry cans on one person. That is not good. You can also stop bad habits, like take your money every day. For example, smoking, alcohol, you can just minimize and make sure you're not spending a lot of your money on such kind of expenses. In strategic management, we call them cash dogs. You put in money, but your service, what you get out of them, it is actually psychological, not tangible, or it cannot even earn you any other income. So we can minimize on that, or if possible, you can stop. You can, after earning salary, or if you're in a business, mostly if you're in a business, you're a business person, first pay yourself before you budget for other things. Then another thing, the most important thing are two. If you're saving, try to eliminate debts. Of course, I know there is nobody who can stay without debts, or there are very few, but you can eliminate or minimize. This is how it is done. You make sure that if you're borrowing money, you look at the reasons you're borrowing money for. If you're borrowing money to put into something that cannot bring back the interests, or you cannot bring back the money, that's what we call cash dogs, it is better you leave that debt. Because if you're a good person at saving, you'll have all the money to take care of you all through. Now, if you find yourself borrowing to do things that don't bring the money out, then you're already blundering, and you can stop that. Another thing is that if you're going to begin to save, you must think of a goal. We have short-term goals and long-term goals. Short-term goals are within a period of 1 year, and long-term goals, they go up beyond the year. Maybe you can set 2, 3, or 4 years, and you can achieve your goal. And before you think to save, of course, ordinarily have some types of savings. We have you can save we have current accounts and fixed accounts in the bank usually. But today, the savings I have, first manage your savings at a personal level before I'm trying to show you how you're going to start saving and how to achieve saving. So for example, as you're saving, think about on how you're going to save. For example, on a scale of 100, think about how you're going to save. So for example, before you save, divide your income. First of all, divide your income into 2. If you divide the income into 2, you'll have to find that you've divided 50% into saving, and you're taking 50% into expense. And that is what, in expense, we are going to call it disposable income. We'll give it a heading. And for savings, they're also going to give us a very big heading as savings. So again, you have to break down the savings. If you're going into the savings, you have what they call fixed savings, and you'll have what they call emergency expense. It is a type of saving, but it is an expense. Then you have to save for a luxury. It is a type of saving for luxury, but is an expense. You get? So I am going to apportion this. It has taken 50%, but in savings, I will say that my fixed saving under savings is going to take 30%. Remember, we had given it 50%. Then I'm going to say my emergency fund is going to take only 10%. It is an expense, but it is saving to cater for emergencies that happen. For example, if you get an emergency unexpectedly, death, and all that, condolences, that's where it comes. Then luxury, there are people who want that, like Christmas or Christmas gifts and maybe Christmas travels. You can save for that. People like to have trips at the end of the year. You do not have to put that money as part of disposable, because disposable income, if it was a business, it would be termed as operational expenses, and therefore it's very different from disposable income. When you're saving, let's say for a trip for a year, it will have to be in luxury. In a saving that is fixed, usually it is going to be saved maybe periodically, and that should be a year. Any expense that goes beyond a year, that is within a year, in the months, it should be put in disposable income. But if it is taking up to December, then you're going to put it in a fixed saving, but not the original fixed saving account. You're going to have another fixed saving account within the biggest budget of the fixed account. I hope you pick that. So if I have given 30% fixed, this is the original fixed where you cannot withdraw, and these savings, they have a goal attached to them. You put a goal, you say, for example, in a year, 2 or 3, according to your goals, the type of the goals, whether it is long term or short term, you will say that I am saving 30%. Then luxury, you give 10%. Maybe you say I will be saving 10,000 per month up to December to have 120 to go to the beach, or maybe my transport to the village. Those is on a lower end, but there's people who have actually 10 million. You can say I'm saving 1 million per month, but by the end of the day I have 10 million, and maybe I could go to Dubai, or maybe I could go to the zoo, and we could go to Ginger, have a hotel and all that. And then you have emergency fund, 10%. You can remember in your disposable expenses, it's not there. This is an expense that just hasn't boom. You do not know where to start from. Maybe you have already spent your disposable income you've been spending your disposable income for the months, and you've been finishing it. For example, you cannot account for calamity, you cannot account for accidents, you cannot account for death. Therefore, you don't know how many deaths are going to happen in a month. Even when you're putting that emergency fund, it is also there in disposable income. You have to account for it. But because you cannot count how many people are going to die, how many times your children are going to fall sick, you have to have another type of emergency fund within the fixed and then you have to have an emergency fund within the disposable income. So if you have that's how I explain fixed. Fixed has 50%, 30% in the very fixed, the real fixed, original fixed account, which runs for a year plus. And it is attached to a goal. You don't just say I'm keeping this money, after it accumulates I'll get something to do with it. No, that is not fixed. Then it means it is still within emergency. Then you have to increase the figure of emergency from 10 to something. But if you're saving with the goal, buying land, buying a car, this one maybe school fees for your children, that is 30% of your income. Let's say if you're earning 1 million per month, it has to be 300,000 per month, and you're not removing that money until maybe if it was for the education of your children, until they have gone to school, if it was for buying land, until it was for building, until you begin to build. Luxury, if you had saved for travel and all that, and maybe luxury, other things like luxury, like children toys, you want to buy your children bicycles on Christmas, like that. So that is savings. And then under disposable we have disposable income in terms of fixed costs, and that is, for example, you're still paying rent, that's rent, electricity, okay, let me call them utilities, and food and all that. That is, you must have out of, remember I had given you 50, so that expense is too big. Out of 50, it actually takes the whole half. It takes 25%. You are spending on that. Don't spend more than 25% to 30%, because if you do that, it means you're going to run out of your budget. And the savings we are covering today is under budgeting. So we are covering something very important under budgeting, and we are budgeting. What you're doing is budgeting. By these proportions, we are budgeting. Then you have to have luxury again, which is 10%. These weekend outings, you're passing by, you buy chicken for your children, because it's not on a daily menu. So you also have these dailies. Give them 15%. The expenses you make daily. For example, airtime. For example, Vaseline. These small things. We need a matchbox. What? Salt? What? You give them 15%. That's how you are able to manage your finances. Even if, trust me, even if you're earning 200,000, after 10 years from now, you will have been a big person. We are all, I'm talking mostly to young people, but even the old ones you can pick, but I hope it's not too late. But you can save like that, and even if you have little money, you can catch up. You can catch up, and you can find that in future, after maybe 5, 6 years, 10 years, you're the people with the plots, you're the people who have built, and you have a good life. let's begin saving, let's understand saving. Yes, for today, let's stop from there. That's all I had.